have Phil Burns, who's our Gregg County Democratic Party chair. We have Hector Garza, who is our Carolyn Salter, who's former mayor of Palestine. We have Maxine Golightly, who's Harrison County Democratic Party chair. We have Carrie Esposito. She is Democratic Women of East Texas, one of the hardest working women in all of East Texas. Thank you, Carrie, for all you do. We have several precinct chairs here from Gregg County and Smith County and possibly some other counties. Alpshire County. Voter registrar. So, if you're a precinct chair, please stand up. I'd like you all to be recognized. Okay. And next, I'd like to just so she's just coming here to say hello, and then she's going to have to leave and go do her barbecue and about 13th birthday. And then I want to recognize all the hardworking people that have been volunteering with us for the last few months. If you've been volunteering, just please stand up and be recognized. I just have to say this. Catherine here was very sweet when she asked you all to volunteer and to block walk and all those things. And you know, I'm just kind of steering off the welcoming just for a moment when I say this. You know, I've heard Beto kind of talk about me when he's been up here at some of these events, and he kind of makes me sound a little bossy at times. Yeah. And JJ has made me sound maybe a little pushy. Yeah. One of the one here, Arline, earlier today called me the big boss when she was referring to me. I'm like, what? Me? I think I'm just kind of persuasive, right? So, I'm going to try to persuade all of you. Maybe not quite as nice as you were, but I'm going to say this. We really need you guys. And I know that, like me, you're all here because you care. You care about the students, the children that are going to school in fear of getting shot. They're having to do drills for active shooter situations. You care about the teachers that are underpaid and not cared about, not represented the way they should be. You care about our public school system. You care about the workers that are having to work, 2 to 3 jobs just to put food on the table and pay their rent. Because we don't have a minimum wage that's appropriate. Right. You care about the rural hospitals that are shutting down. And you care about the people that, when they do go to the hospital, come out with crushing medical debt because we don't have the expanded Medicaid that we need. So, you care about voting rights, LGBT rights, women's rights, civil rights. What are you going to do here? My question to you is, how much do you care? Do you care enough to put in that 3 hours or more for the next few weeks? Because we need you. Some of us, these people that have been standing here, have been block walking. We've been phone banking. We've been writing postcards. But we need some of you to join in. there are about 20 of us that we can count on every week. But if all of you join in, we have a little army, and we get this turned out. And I know, like everyone in the state knows, that if East Texas turns out for Beto and for JJ, we win this thing. Just a little statistic, and I get a little nerdy on these things, but there were 23,000 registered voters in 2020 here in Gray County that did not vote. Now, that doesn't count the people that could have been registered that didn't get registered, but 23,000 that were registered that just didn't vote. Those weren't Republican voters, those were our voters. Republicans turned out at about 73%. Ours turned out at less than 50%. So we have to reach those voters. We reach them by making that connection, by going to their doors and telling them how important it is. What's important to us, what's important to them. And we've got to have you all on board to do that. Now, it might seem like, oh, that's uncomfortable. I just don't like to do that kind of thing. But I ask you, is it going to be uncomfortable for a young rape victim to carry her rapist baby to term? Gosh, I'm tired when I get off work. I'm going to ask you, is it that parent, that single parent that has to work 2 to 3 jobs to put food on the table? How tired are they? Tired. Okay? Or, gosh, you know what? My feet are going to hurt if I have to walk those blocks. But think about the people that are in pain because they can't go to the doctor because they don't have any access to medical care. That's what I want you to think about for the next few weeks. And I want you to join us, and I want you to block walk, phone bank, and write those postcards. And if you do that, we're going to win this thing. It's 36, 3 weeks. 3 weeks and we got this. And now I'm going to turn it over to JJ, and he can be our next congressman. He can replace Louis Gohmert. And I tell you what, if this man doesn't motivate you to get out to vote, no one can.
Believe. I'll say that again. I believe in your work. I believe in effort. I believe that if we sit home, Greg Abbott will continue to sit down and do nothing. We need a candidate that can stand up for us, run for us, walk. I've seen this man tired. Why? Because if you look in his eyes and look in my eyes and look at his marital eyes and the people who have been doing the work, this is judgment time. The many of you who I've seen and I've made friends with, many of you I love. You all. It's time to fight. These Republican brothers and sisters that's outside, you know what they said to me? Give up, JJ. It's over with for you in 3 weeks. I said, what? So I did the one thing that I did because I believe. They came through in a big diesel truck. I walked in the middle of the street. I took a borehole and I said, Donald Trump, stay out of Texas. If we would not stand up against our leaders who come in here and endorse lazy candidates who aren't real conservatives, because we should only be focusing on real Americans. We are Americans. And if we work just for 3 weeks, Beto can get in there and battle a total Republican legislation. I'm ready to see that fight. y'all would have been throwing Republicans and insurrections out. But believe in what we're doing. We have a future to fight for. When you are tired, that's when you give it your all. I'm only 5'10", and I used to dunk on people that's 6'9" and 6'10" for breakfast. Walmart gas stations, putting signs up through the 17 counties, working hard because I believe that we can't afford another Louis Gohmert. We can't afford for Beto not to be our governor. And just for last, all the Republicans says never Beto. I say never Abbott. So I'm asking you all to get 50 to 250 people and take them to the polls with you. Right? Because we believe. And if you really want to defend women's rights, believe in it. If you really want to end poverty in East Texas, believe in doing the work. And if you really want to make sure that we're united, it's not about kicking Republicans out and electing Democrats. It's about being a good person, regardless of who wins. But I believe that Cody is better. I believe JJ is better. And I know Beto is better. So I would like to say one thing, if I can. Y'all want to get the next governor hyped up? Well, I want you to get on your feet. Now, many of you already know what I do. We got to set the mood. We got to get East Texas ready. Because I heard that beautiful lady right there saying, so go East Texas, so go Texas. And this is our anthem. Come on, sing it with me, my brother. This little light of mine. Come on now. I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, this little light of mine. Whoa, come on, y'all. I'm gonna let it shine. Our brothers out there, they give you light. Come on. This little light of mine. Whoa, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Introducing our next governor, Mr. Beto.
Longview, how about our next member of Congress, JJ, who is smart enough to pull the microphone away from me after he heard me sing that first verse. That has us all fired up and ready and willing and committed, most importantly, to doing the work necessary to win these elections. And I mean all of these elections, up and down the ballot, for every position of public trust that has the power over our lives to decide what our lives will be like. And really, even whether some of us in this community will continue to be able to lead a life going forward. I don't know that there's been an election in our lifetimes that is more important. And the way that we are choosing to spend it right now, literally together here in Longview, not pushed or bossed, but persuaded by this extraordinary gentle lady who has invited us all to come back to this community that she first introduced me to 5 years ago when I was a no-name nobody from El Paso who was thinking about running to represent this state in the United States Senate. And she said, there is a place I know that you have not been, because if you had come, I would hear about it. It's Longview. And you may have written it off, you may have dismissed it, you may be taking it for granted. Do not sleep on Longview. This community is waking up right now. It is a power in the state of Texas which needs to be paying attention to. JJ, who not only was willing to meet with and listen to and maybe get in the way of that tractor trailer that was moving down this street, but literally will spend time with anyone, anywhere, at any time across this district. And I've seen him in every part of this district. He's the first one in, at any given event. He's always, but always, the last person to leave. He truly cares about each and every single one of us. Never asks, what's the letter next to your name, or even if you're registered to vote, or can I see your citizenship status, or are you gay, or are you straight, or are you something else? He just wants to know what he can do to be there for you. And imagine having a servant leader like JJ representing us in the United States Congress. It would make not just Longview and the rest of this district, but the entire state of Texas so damn proud. And so we are grateful for you. Do everything you can to make sure that you I want to, we were driving up and we saw some avid supporters out there and waved, and this is Texas, so they waved back. Honestly, smiles on their faces. Maybe they weren't expecting us to be kind, and all it takes is you showing it in the first place and people return it. That's who we are. And to show you what an eternal optimist Cynthia Cano is, and Cynthia is one of those leaders in this campaign, the only other person that I know of who's been to every one of the 254 counties of Texas who really understands this state. She says, I think that's one of your signs that this brave soul is holding in the midst of all these avid supporters. I think that says forever Beto. We drive up a little closer, and it's not a 4 before the ever in Beto. It's something else. Here's the thing. Our governor and the majority in the legislature, our current state representative and member of Congress, they're sleeping on this community. And not just those of you who might vote for a Democrat in this next election, but those folks out there. I mean, do you think they have seen Greg Abbott in a room like this where we can freely gather and everyone's welcome inside the door? Do you think he knows what the concerns, the interests, the hopes, the dreams, the aspirations, the ambitions of this community are? He's got your votes in the bank, so he thinks. So why in the world would he waste the time and bother to show up and meet with you eyeball to eyeball, face to face, human to human, just like we are choosing to gather right here at this moment? This is what upset victories are born of. Those giants who sleep on the people, who put them into that position of power and public trust to begin with. You begin taking people for granted, especially here in Texas, and that spells the end of your time in that position. And the start of something truly extraordinary in the state of Texas. And I wanted to share a really quick, brief message at the outset that I would ask you to consider sharing with the Republicans and the Abbott supporters in your lives. Maybe even these people out on the street corner right now. The reason that you're here, Mary Lou, I thought just said it perfectly. You're here because you care. I'd also argue, and hear me out, indulge me in this if you feel differently than I do. I bet you they care as well. And I bet you they want their kids to be okay. I bet you that they want their lives to be better. I bet you they want to be respected and treated with the dignity that they deserve as human beings. And here's a message I want to give them, because I bet you they voted for Abbott last time. And they may be planning to vote for him again. And some of you may have voted for Abbott last time. No. Thought it was worth saying. I don't for a second think that Greg Abbott wakes up in the morning wanting kids to be shot in their classroom, or for this state to lead the nation in the number of school shootings, or for gun violence to be the leading cause of death for children and teenagers. All those things are true since he's been governor. I don't think he wakes up wanting Child Protective Services to be the worst run foster care program in the United States of America, bar none. 32,000 kids in that system, and despite the fact that we're the 9th largest economy on the planet, tonight, in some CPS offices, those kids will be sleeping in the hallways. They'll be lying under the desks, atop the tables. We will not allow some same-sex couples to be able to adopt a child out of that system into their loving home, because though it's not okay, it's perfectly legal in Greg Abbott's Texas to deny adoption simply based on sexual orientation. And even worse, 100 children, 100 innocent little babies have lost their lives in that CPS system just since the year of our Lord, 2020. This is something he's been warned about day in, day out, year in, year out. It has only gotten worse on his watch. And yet, I cannot believe that he wakes up wanting this to be the outcome. The teachers who are leaving the profession by the thousands, leaving kids without a permanent classroom presence. And I know that because our 11-year-old Henry graduated or completed, as they say, elementary school in the 5th grade without a permanent classroom teacher for a single day of that last academic year. And look, I bet you Henry's going to be okay. His folks rally around him. The substitute teachers are amazing. But think about that child who really needs that consistent, permanent classroom presence, not only so that they can succeed academically. What about that kid who is losing weight really quickly and the substitute doesn't notice because she's just come in for the first day of teaching this week, but a permanent classroom teacher might say, hey, we've got to get this kid some help, some calories, some nutrition. Something is wrong right here. Greg Abbott doesn't want that kid to suffer. Does he want the lights to go out and the heat to stop running and the water to freeze up in our pipes because the electricity went out in the energy capital of the world right here in Texas last winter? Probably doesn't want that either. But this is the point I want to make to you. And I hope that you will share this point with those in our lives who may not see things the same way that we do. Whether he wants that or not, he's been the governor of this great state for 8 years. And for whatever reason, he has been unable or unwilling to make the changes necessary to improve our lives and to fix these problems. We don't blame you if you voted for Greg Abbott last time. That might have been a very reasonable decision that you made. But now it is clear that he's failed us and he cannot get the job done. It is time to turn the page and vote for change. You all with me on this? Is this a message that we can get from him? Republicans in East Texas come up to me and they said, Beto, when you do not inadvertently paint me with the same brush and make me part of the problem and back me into a corner and make me the enemy and judge me, when you just say, look, this guy's had his chance and he failed and it's time to move on, I feel like I can come in to the movement that all of us are a part of. And I think we have to be about bringing people in at this moment. And so I just ask you, regardless of whether they're honking at us or saying the funny things that they say out there holding those signs, let's meet them with some charity and some kindness and an open mind and give them an invitation to join us. We've just got 5 days before ballots are cast in earnest in this race. That first day of early voting on the 24th of October might be the highest day of voting, at least during the early vote, maybe only matched by Election Day, the 8th of November. To the point that JJ and Mary Lou were making just now, ask yourself what you're willing to do. The conversations with those persuadable voters, or as Jason on our team calls them, the underinvested in voters. The folks who vote in every other presidential but never make it out to a midterm are likely to be with us if they get out to vote, but no one's ever spent a dime on them. Democrats included, present company excluded. They've just said, you know what, it's Longview. We're never going to win Gregg County. Why should we bother to show up and invest? Let's go spend time in Collin and Denton County chasing that white suburban soccer mom. That is our future, right? How many times have you heard that over so many different election cycles? And look, no disrespect to that white suburban soccer mom in Collin County. I want to win her vote. And we're going to be up there. We actually were just there 2 days ago. But when we fail to show up for people like you, for these county chairs and precinct chairs and block walkers and volunteers who've been doing the important work literally in the political wilderness of the state of Texas, you have literally made this moment possible. And the reason I keep coming back to Longview is not just Mary Lou TV, although she is the primary reason. But it is to have your backs, to fight for you, and to win this election by and for every single one of you. You all ready to win? I am too. And I'll tell you what, I want to give you some really good news from the front lines of this campaign. You all saw this because you made it possible. When we last week reported our fundraising totals for the last quarter, we once again outraised the sitting governor of the state of Texas 10 times the number of contributions came into this campaign as came into his. The single greatest group of contributors, Texas school teachers and educators. Get the job done. We now have over 95,000 volunteers who are out there knocking on doors, making phone calls, meeting voters where they are from their own hearts and in their own words, describing why this is the election of our lifetimes, and with their own ears, listening to what is most important to those voters who otherwise will sit this one out. Mary Lou is absolutely right. 23,000 eligible residents of this county did not vote in the last election. Now, the number one reason given by them for not voting is that no one asked them to do that. Those 95,000 volunteers, many of whom are with us right now at this moment, you are literally bringing in the difference, the margin of victory on election night. The very people targeted for suppression and intimidation in this great democracy, they thought they were drawn out, but we're drawing them back in, and you're getting that work done. And then there's this, look, for whatever it matters, the Marist polling organization last week said that this race has tightened within the margin of error. Now, back when we started and we were más o menos 15 points down in those national polls, that we would be within the margin of error 5 days out from early vote, but we are, which means that it is within our grasp. All we have to do is just continue to extend, to reach, and to push ourselves in every way possible. These folks like Rocio and Grace, who are in the high visibility, yellow reflective vests, have these clipboards right now. And on those clipboards are open canvassing shifts where you can sign up and walk the talk that you brought here tonight and make sure that we're on the doors of those voters who decide the outcome of this election. And look, I don't know that I have to do a whole bunch of persuading because you're here, but let me just in my own terms, very personally, tell you what this moment means to me. If you think about the fact that you have a total abortion ban in the state of Texas that begins at conception, there's no exception for rape, there's no exception for incest, and functionally and effectively, there's no exception for the life of the mother. And it's taking place in a state that leads the developed world in the rate of maternal mortality. 3 times as deadly for black women, by the way, in the state of Texas. When you think about the fact that it is harder to vote or get your name on the rolls to be registered to vote in this state than anywhere else in America today, and 13% of the ballots cast just in March of this year during our primary by mail were rejected by the state. 13 out of 100 times, someone figured out how to vote, took the initiative, marked their ballot, and had it sent back to them. That doesn't happen in democracies. It's happening right now in the state of Texas. I mentioned the god-awful statistics when it comes to gun violence and the fact that 21 weeks since 19 children and their 2 teachers were taken from us in Uvalde, this current governor and our current Republican majority government have done nothing to make it any less likely that that happens in any other classroom, to any other child or teacher in any other part of the state. The way that we choose to meet these challenges with literally our lives on the line will determine our future and define us in the eyes of our kids forever. But I want us to have faith and take stock in the fact that we have overcome greater challenges before against much longer odds. So not only can we overcome these, we've done it before and we're going to do it again. And let me explain. You all know, and I've shared this with some of you in previous meetings, that 99 years ago, the Texas legislature said that if you were black, you couldn't vote in the state of Texas. They didn't say the voter registrar can ask you how many bubbles are in a bar of soap, or to recite the state constitution, or to take a literacy test, or to price you out with a poll tax. They literally said in black and white in state statute, if you're black, you cannot vote. Pretty soon, black and persons of color included Mexican Americans and others who were disfavored by the white majority in Texas at the time. We, again, were no longer anywhere close to being a full democracy. But though Texas came up with the most vicious form of voter suppression, the same state also came up with the heroes who overcame it. People like Dr. Lawrence Nixon, born not too far from here in Marshall, Texas, moved to El Paso in 1910, starts the first chapter of the NAACP in this state, votes in every single election until his vote becomes outlawed, and then takes the case all the way to the United States Supreme Court and wins not one, but 2 signal victories. It took him 21 years, but he was able to force the reintegration, at least the beginning of it, of our elections in 1944. He set the groundwork for John Lewis, someone that Mary Lou and I mutually admire and have had the great joy in meeting and getting to know. John Lewis was able to break through to the next level because at the end of 1964, the first Texas president, LBJ, meeting with Martin Luther King Jr. and Andrew Young, they're asking him to get behind the Voting Rights Act, and he says, "Gentlemen, I don't know if you know how this stuff works, but we just passed the Civil Rights Act." And that was really, really tough to do. We had to get these Democrats, these white supremacist Southern Democrats from the states of the former Confederacy to confer full civil rights on our fellow Americans, to now ask me to do the Voting Rights Act. Well, that's a bridge too far, a hill too steep for us to climb. I don't have the power to do it. Upon leaving the White House, Dr. King is alleged to have turned to Ambassador Young and said, "We got to go out there and get this president some power." Over the coming days and weeks and months, the power was found in rooms just like these through people just like us. One of them being a 24-year-old John Lewis in Selma, Alabama, who led a march across the Edmund Pettus Bridge to stand up and move for and pray with his feet for simply being treated as the U.S. citizen that he was and being allowed to register to vote and to cast a ballot. That moment where he nearly lost his life was so powerful and so compelling that Lyndon Johnson called a joint session of Congress within 8 days of Bloody Sunday in Selma and told every sitting senator and member of the House, Republican and Democrat alike, that as it was at Lexington and Concord during the Revolutionary War, as it was at Appomattox in 1865, so it is today in Selma, Alabama in 1965. We have the power to confer this vote that these young men and women were literally willing to die for. By the summer of that year, he had signed the Voting Rights Act into law, creating the first true multiracial democracy in America. That didn't come from the Northeast. That didn't come from California. That didn't come from anywhere else except the state of Texas, beginning with people like Dr. Nixon, going through the all the way up to John Lewis, and now I would say, as it was in 1965, so it is today in 2022. This is the test of our lifetimes. If we are found wanting, if we don't come through, I don't know that there's a guarantee of a 2024 free and fair election. I don't know that this grand, noble experiment that has stood the test of time for más o menos 246 years gets another 246 or even another year at that. Literally, everything is on the line. And the way I look at it, look, you can despair to hear this news and say, Jesus, I give up. Who can stand against these challenges, these threats, especially here in Gray County? Who am I, a Democrat or somebody who's going to vote for JJ or Beto or any of these other great candidates to come up against this? Or you can count yourself so lucky to be alive and breathing and in Texas at this moment of truth. The chance for you to be in that pantheon of heroes who come through at our country at its moment of maximum peril, at its moment of greatest need. I have a very good feeling about what we are going to celebrate on the night of November 8th. And it's going to happen because of people who are free and we can see. So, Gray County, no pressure. But the free world is literally counting on you at this moment. Last thing that I want to say, because this will probably be the last time as a candidate that I get to be in Longview with you. I want to say thank you. We have kept coming back to this community. You all have kept showing up. I'm seeing new faces and new people, which is so encouraging. More people coming out to join this effort. And just think about all the people in this room. If all of us will knock on 10 doors, 50 doors, 100 doors. I was running for Congress my first time in 2012. We do 100 or 120 doors per person per day. We can do that. But even if you want to spread that 100 over the course of the next 5 days, just imagine how many people we are going to be able to reach. And so, as I bring this to a conclusion, please, please, please sign up with one of these folks in yellow vests. When you come by later, as I hope you will, to say hello and to shake hands and to take a picture, post that picture on Instagram, post it on Facebook, post it on Twitter. We'll do a dance together so we get it up on TikTok as well. And in the caption to the picture that you post, that I want you to get up there before you get into your car, explain to those who follow you or who may come across this picture what brought you out here tonight and what you're hoping to celebrate on the night of November 8th. We're going to bring this home and we're going to win. Thank you, Longview, for coming out. We're going to get this done. Let's everybody else go. Let's continue the process. Thank you. Cynthia says if everyone will hold their places and if the folks up front will sit, we're going to do one big group picture that we're going to put up there so everyone knows who to thank after we win this election. And then we're going to hang out if anybody would like to take an individual picture or just say hello. And I'm just going to get on the floor right here.
Joe, it's too crowded.
All right, y'all ready? Kate is going to give us a countdown. And we're going to say the count 3.
We're going to say Veto, right, Longview? We're going to say Longview, Longview. All right, here we go. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Longview!